Inside the stories that affect you. This is Inside KELOLAND.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Bridget Bennett. Family plays an important role in many of our lives, but how a family is built doesn't always look the same. November is National Adoption Month, something very close to my heart. And in this week's Inside KELOLAND, we are learning about the different journeys to adoption. We'll sit down with a local agency and find how they work with expectant moms and families looking to adopt. Then we'll hear from two families, find out what it's like adopting from another country and through foster care, and the need for more families willing to open up their hearts and their homes. First off, we are looking at domestic infant adoption and what the process looks like. Joining me now is Colleen Globkey and Karen Brown from All About You Adoptions. Thank you guys for being here today.
Absolutely.
All right, so first off, just tell us what your agency does, what you do as an adoption agency.
Well, All About You Adoptions is a nonprofit child placing agency. We're licensed in 4 states, and we work with birth parents, expectant parents, counseling on their options when they're facing an unplanned pregnancy. And we work with families looking to adopt and doing home studies and placement services for them.
Now, what does adoption look like today? I think a lot of people have a view of adoption that's maybe based in more what it looked like during the 1950s or 1960s. What does modern adoption look like?
Adoption today is typically open. And what that means is that the birth parents choose the family that they would like to adopt their child. And an open adoption is just like any other relationship where it evolves over time. It doesn't just happen overnight. So, and all of them look different as well. So it might be something as simple as exchanging contact information and pictures and letters, or it might be getting together and having visits and that type of thing.
Why has adoption moved to more open adoption, and what's the benefit for everyone involved in an adoption?
There's a lot of benefit for all parts of what we call the adoption triad. The child is able to know all the answers to their questions. As they grow up knowing who their birth parents are. Like they grow up knowing who grandpa and grandma are, they grow up knowing who their birth parents are. So they can get the answers to any questions that they have. Having adoptive family and birth family know each other and have a relationship makes them more comfortable with each other. And for birth parents, when they've made that incredibly hard decision, it gives them a sense of peace to be able to know how their child is doing.
So what does that process look like kind of from start to finish when an expectant parent comes to you or a prospective adoptive parent comes to your agency? Where does it go from there?
I can talk to the adoptive parent side. For any family or individual looking to adopt, the first step is to have a home study completed, which sounds intimidating. It's a pretty extensive look into your background, a lot of background checks, medicals, identity documents, just a lot of things for us to make sure you're a safe and secure home for a child. But we see it really as a lot more about preparing families for everything that's ahead and how to open their hearts to that idea of openness or just being prepared for everything that comes along the way. And then once their home study's approved, they wait to be chosen by a family and then wait for placement of a baby.
I'll talk about that expectant mom perspective. When she makes a decision to look into adoption and contacts your agency, where does that go from there?
Okay. We work very much with helping her prepare emotionally for that decision. We help her make sure that that's really what she wants, because this isn't a decision that she just makes once. This is a decision she makes over and over. She makes it initially, she makes it at the hospital, she makes it when the legal part happens. So it's something we want her to feel very comfortable about. So we guide her through that process, help prepare her emotionally, help her look at profiles of adoptive families and match with a family that's going to be a good fit for her. And then we help her carry out the type of adoption she wants, whether it's open or semi-open or what that's going to look like.
Now, you mentioned the legal process. That really is a big part of adoption, and it can look different depending which state you live in. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Certainly. We are licensed in 4 different states. So, for example, in South Dakota, someone who's choosing adoption has to go to court to tell the judge that this is what they want. And in some other states, that is not the case. For example, in Nebraska, they just have to sign documents in front of a notary. So that makes it different. In South Dakota, that time frame could take anywhere from 10 days to 5 weeks. And in Nebraska, it's 48 hours. So it's very different in each state.
Yes, and that time frame that you're talking about, there's a process called termination of rights and then an adoption finalization. Can you explain the differences between those 2 moments?
Sure. The termination of parental rights means that the birth parents are making it a permanent decision. They are making the decision to move forward with their adoption, and that makes it official from their side. And then
in South Dakota, in most states, there's a period of about 6 months after the placement where we continue to visit with the family, make sure things are going smoothly and everyone's feeling comfortable, see if there's any supports they need. And at the end of those 6 months, they go to court and legally finalize the adoption. That's when the baby's name, they take the adopted family's name, and everything's legally final.
Yeah. Throughout all of this process, and my own experience, I know there's a lot of trust involved in this process on all sides, both the adoptive parents and birth parents, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right now, talk about what's happening with the numbers of adoptions happening.
We are seeing less adoptions right now. In 2020, we had about 25 placements. This year, we're at about 17. So there are some things that are changing, which, there's a lot of different reasons that might be. We're not sure exactly, but that is something that is happening.
And last couple things I want to talk about is just what are some reasons that people choose adoption, whether that's the birth mom or the adoptive parents?
I think a lot of adoptive families come to adoption after a struggle with infertility. Others just feel the need to grow their family and feel the love for children and expanding their family through that way.
Birth parents typically are choosing adoption because they're not at a point in their life when they are ready to parent a child or another child. So typically we see women in their 20s and 30s who are choosing adoption. Very often they have other children that they're taking care of, and they know the struggles of what parenting is like. And they know that it's going to be best for their other children as well as the child that they are having to make an adoption plan. So that's something that we see very often.
And the first step for either side of the adoption triad that wants to get started, reach out, right?
Yes, I'd say start, for example, our website has a tremendous amount of information for birth parents, expectant parents, and for adoptive families. Talking to other people who have lived it and experienced it, and just growing your village, and just finding someone trustworthy and ethical to proceed and lead you down this path.
And for birth parents, on our website, we have a live chat that we answer 24/7. So if they want to anonymously just talk to someone and get some questions answered, they can do that. Also on our website, they can text us, again, 24/7. They can call us. They can fill out a contact form. And there is also a lot of information there as well. So they can dig deep into the website and find information, or they can reach out and contact us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for your time today. Lots of good information. We have a lot more to come. We're going to focus on international adoption coming up next. Hear from the Lee family and their journey of adopting from another country. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside KELOLAND, where we're talking about National Adoption Month. Joining me now is Sandra and Daniela Lee from Coleman, South Dakota, talking about international adoption. These guys are both Angels in Adoption nominees nominated by Senator Round this month. So first of all, congratulations on that. And thanks for being here today, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your story about, Sandra, what led you and your family to choose adoption and to choose adopting from Haiti?
Well, my husband Chad and I have twins, biological twins, and we actually thought we were done with our family. When they entered school, we were kind of looking forward to that new season and stuff. But then it became clear to us that God had another plan for us. And so we were approached by someone who, at Lifelight actually, who offered us a book about adoption. And by the time I'd read that for a couple days, by the time I finished it at the end of the week, I knew for sure that God had a sibling group for us, not just one. And so then we just set out looking at how to proceed with that. So
yeah. And when did you find your kids in Haiti?
Well, we were on an adoption website then, spurred by this book actually, and there was a sibling group on there that caught my attention, and I had no interest in adopting, but I called my husband over to look at that and just say, they say these kids are going to be split up if they can't find a family for them. And that really just gripped my heart. Was not interested in adoption, but through the course of the week, we just really felt that siblings was a call that we had. And these guys were in Haiti. So we just kind of started proceeding that way, and that did not end up to be the referral for us, but it got us started on the home study, and just knowing that that was something that we should work on, and we really went right after it then to proceed with that. As far as for getting matched for these guys, some situations had changed in Haiti where it goes up and down. You know, as you can tell, it's been a little tough there lately too. And so we weren't looking at that specific country at the time because we didn't meet the requirements. But then our adoption coordinator on the ground there got a phone call, and they had Christopher and Daniela, so Danielle and her younger brother. They were in need of a family, and they felt like we were the right match for that. And so we accepted the challenge to go in and proceed with that.
All right, now Daniela, it's your turn. What do you remember of hearing about this family from South Dakota who wanted to adopt you?
Well, I do remember them taking me and Christopher into a room or whatever with a whole bunch of other kids. I think it was all the kids who were up for adoption or whatever, and the dude told us that there were some people coming in to see us, say hi, and whatever, play around or do whatever. And yeah, that's the first time I heard, but I didn't really know who, just that someone's coming.
Yeah, talk about, do you remember actually coming to the U.S. for the first time and what it was like?
I do remember that. It was scary yet exciting and new. Everything was new. It was like going from completely 80-degree hot weather and everything to winter, cold, weird white stuff on the ground, like weird people around me. I don't know what they're saying and all that, but they were all kind, and it was really new and quite amazing.
Yeah, so not only a climate change, a new language, and all of those things. Sandra, what was it like, dealing with some of that language changes and other things like that with international adoption?
That's probably one of the things that people are the most, or one of the things that people are concerned about, when you talk about people is like, if you're getting older children, is they can't communicate. And I've always just said it's really a non-issue because kids learn so fast. I mean, there's no way we could study their language and learn as fast as they can just adapt. But it's a lot of just hand signals and getting through. And our daughter said after 2 weeks, she said, "Mom, I really did need a sister." And I said, "You haven't seen anything yet. Just wait till you can speak the same language." Because honestly, they had just been living it up and having such a great time together, and an immediate bond, even though no words shared in the same language. But
that's amazing. Those sibling bonds are so special. Talk about that a little bit. I mean, the love that you have for all of your family.
Yeah. I'm really tight, the tightest with my sister, just because I did create that bond like right away, and right away it's nice having someone who's obviously not a brother, just like a sister you can bond with. It's a real relationship change that everyone needs pretty much, but bonding with Adam and my parents, it was so easy. Everything just clicked. It was pretty much meant to be.
Oh, that is amazing. Talk about how adoption has changed your family, and specifically international adoption, bringing in people who are from a different culture, different background, a different climate to your home here in South Dakota.
it really does it broadens your scope, and even just learning about different countries and the people there, you know, it brings you out of yourself. It helps you to learn about other cultures. It enriches your family and your groups, your school. I mean, we've had so much support too, but it's also an education piece. It really does add flavor. I guess I should mention too, though, I've mentioned Danielle and Christopher, that we had a surprise waiting for us that we didn't know about, which was the number 3, Meccano. So that we were actually along the way already with the adoption of Danielle and Christopher when we got the phone call that they had a biological brother that had been cared for in a different orphanage, and so he was able to join in with that adoption. So in those pictures, people are seeing the baby. That's Meccano, the youngest. So
3 kiddos, all from Haiti. You were the oldest at 4. Daniela, you don't need to speak for your brothers necessarily, but what impact do you think adoption has had on your life and your siblings' lives?
I think now it's pretty much the greatest impact on my life it could ever have. Like, it's gonna be my biggest story, like, ever, because it's just such a dramatic change from then and now. If I wasn't adopted, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't have a sister and my other siblings, and you know, I'd be somewhere else, and I'm not sure I'd enjoy that somewhere else. So I'm glad I'm here.
Awesome. We are glad you are here too. Thank you guys so much for sharing a little bit of your story. It's been awesome to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot more adoption talk yet to come. We're going to take a quick break. Up next, more than 100 children have come through their home over the past 11 years. We're going to hear from the Christensen's journey of adoption through foster care next. Welcome back. A main focus for National Adoption Month this year is to bring attention to the need for adoptive families for teens in the U.S. foster care system. Joining me now is Holly Christensen from Sioux Falls. Her and her husband have been foster parents for 11 years, and they've also adopted through the foster care system. Your story is so amazing, Holly. Tell me a little bit about just what led you guys to foster care.
Yeah, absolutely. So we tried to have biological children to start with, and that was not a journey that God had planned for us. So we decided that we were going to work on a private adoption, which also was not God's plan for us. So we started out in the foster care journey and decided we would take that path in fostering kids with not the intent of adoption, but if it became available, that would be something we would pursue, because we were also still pursuing private adoption at the same time. So,
yeah. And your journey has taken you to a lot of different wonderful kids, right? I think talk about what your family has looked like over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been foster parents in 3 states, Idaho, Oklahoma, and South Dakota. In that journey, we have fostered over 100 kids, a majority of those kids while we were in the state of Oklahoma. But yeah, so we've done all the way from infant to our oldest was 18. So we've done the whole age range of kids through the foster care system. So.
That's incredible. And I love what you said when you talked about what led you to the foster care system. You didn't come to the foster care system to adopt. You came there hoping to foster first. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously the main goal with the foster care system is to work on reunification, but we know that that's not always the case for every single family. So we work closely with the families, and I think that's a very important part of the foster care system, is building that bond and bridge with the families. So when the kids do go home, sometimes you can maintain that contact. We have several kids that we even fostered in the very beginning of our journey. In fact, our very first foster kid, we still have contact with the family even after 11 years. And then building that relationship so that you can visit them when they go home, keep that contact, but also for when the kids are adopted, because they have a lot of questions. My kids that were younger that are now older have questions about like their history, family things like that. So being able to have that open dialogue between them is also important.
So let's talk about your family and adoption.
Yes.
How many out of more than 100 foster kids, how many have you been able to adopt?
Yeah, so we have 5 kids we adopted, 3 different sibling groups. So we have Jerica and Shelly, who are siblings, and Abby, and it's kind of unique. We got to adopt all of 3 of them on the same day, even though they're not siblings, even though Abby and the other 2 are not siblings. So they got to share that special day. And then we have Rashad and Latoya. Latoya was actually a private adoption, but is Rashad's sister. And then oh my gosh, I'm drawing like, nope, that's it, that's 5. I was like, wait a minute.
That's all the kids for now.
Yes. And then we are currently in the process of possibly adopting 2 more, so.
And fostering all of the time. I think that's
Yes.
awesome. Talk a little bit more about your unique openness with the biological families and the important role that is for any foster parent out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we came from a state where that is something that is a big thing. You do visits, you interact with the families on a much higher level than in South Dakota. But through that journey, I learned the importance of doing that because they're not bad people. A lot of them just don't have a support system, that person to go to help them grow and get to where they need to be able to transition home. And so that's played an important role in our adoptions and in the foster care journey, just building that bond, allowing them to come to the park with you or go on family outings, have holiday meals with you, birthday parties, things like that. The kids appreciate it and the bio parents appreciate it, and I also appreciate it because you're basically adding another family member to your family. So.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Now let's talk about the need. You work a lot with the East River Foster Care Network here in the Sioux Falls area. There's quite a bit of need here in Sioux Falls and really all over the state for more foster families.
Yes. There's definitely a need for more foster families. There's several kids that are placed out of county, and obviously the main goal is to keep them close to home, close to their culture, to make that bridging possible, because if you're across states, or across the state, it makes it significantly more difficult to be successful at the bridging because you can't be right there hands on hands doing things with them. But the need for different cultures and different family is huge. For the kids that are in foster care and the kids waiting to be adopted.
Yeah. Any age groups that we are seeing significant need in? Is the teen group a really hard one to find foster families for?
Yes, so older kids, any middle school, high school kids is the area that tends to be the most struggle to get those foster families to step up, and also adoptive families.
Yeah. How can people get involved with foster care?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can just reach out to the local CPS office, and they can help guide you in the right direction on who to work with. You have to do the home study, background checks, all that fun stuff. So.
But in the end, it's worth it, right?
Absolutely worth it. I would not change a day. There's days it's hard. When the kids leave, it's definitely hard. But everybody in the house enjoys it, and you grow and learn to develop those life skills on how to build those relationships and bonds with people.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Well, we are going to take a short break. We'll be right back with Inside KELOLAND. If you would like to learn more about adoption and the resources available in KELOLAND, just head to our website. Under this story, you'll find links and additional information covered in today's show. What wasn't covered today, we heard from adoptees, adoptive parents, and an agency, but we are also going to be hearing from a birth mom and the family she chose to adopt her child. We'll have her story in Eye on KELOLAND coming up Wednesday night right here on KELOLAND News. We hope you'll join us for that story as well. That is all the time we have for today. Be sure to join us again next week for more of what's going on inside KELOLAND.